At the Pioneer RCQ tournament, which was held at Mavericks Cards and Hobbies in Mason, Ohio, we interviewed Forrest, a player from Dayton, Ohio, piloting a red-black mid-range deck. Let's see what this deck is all about.
Basically, it's a tournament where all the best players in the world from different countries and everything come in the same room and play the game that we all love.
I am Jace Belair.
And I am Stoneforge Mystic.
It's just a really amazing game.
It's just mind-boggling to even think about.
I guess the rest is history.
I started playing Magic right when Return to Ravnica came out, and Pioneer as a format goes back exactly to Return to Ravnica, so it's almost like the perfect format for my history just playing Magic. So I already had a bunch of the cards from playing Standard and stuff in the past. I enjoy playing like older non-rotating formats, but I also like playing like smaller card pools, so it's kind of in between Modern and the constantly rotating Standard. Red-black midrange it's a midrange deck that's red-black, the obvious parts. It gets memed a lot for being red-black 3-drops, because there's a lot of very powerful 3-drops in the deck. Liliana of the Veil just entered Pioneer this weekend, so that's another powerful 3-drop. But it's a deck that tries to play a mixture of creatures and removal spells and then planeswalkers, and just try to outvalue your opponent by getting 2-for-1s against them. I don't lose as many games to the deck because most of the cards do very similar things, or you can draw and discard cards that are bad. So it fits my wheelhouse. I played a lot of mid-range and Standard. So my mana base it's got, I believe, 14 kind of dual lands: Blood Crypt, the Pathway land for red-black, Sulfurous Springs, and Haunted Ridge. And then it's got Urborg to help fix my mana, so I will always have enough black mana to cast things. And then the biggest kind of part of it is it's got four creature lands, and those are nice because if I'm using all my spells to trade with theirs, I will still have lands that can do things on the battlefield. I said it was like known for 3-drops, and I've got 4 Bonecrusher Giants, which also is a spell, so you can 2-for-1 with it. 4 Graveyard Trespassers, where they have to discard a card if they want to remove it. I've got 4 Bloodtithe Harvesters, because being able to use that blood token to discard stuff is really nice. And it's surprisingly a really good 2-drop, not something you'd expect. And then Fable of the Mirror Breaker is kind of a creature, if you want to count it, because it flips into one. But it makes a token creature and eventually flips into a creature. So it's kind of like 2 creatures in one. And then it just has a lot of value in it. And then Kroxa is just a very good card that I can discard to Liliana, to Fable, to the blood tokens, and then eventually have a giant 6/6. A big part of it is because I love the card Thoughtseize, just because I like being able to figure out what kind of plan I need to do. I played a lot of Thoughtseize in Modern. I played a lot of Death Shadow in Modern, so I got used to playing it, and I feel like it's a card where you can do a lot with it, and it makes you feel like you have the ability to affect the matchups by what you're taking. So I play that, and I've got Fatal Push, because for 1 mana I get to interact with my opponent, and usually it's cards they would have to spend more mana on, or just getting rid of cards I don't want to have to deal with. So just having a bunch of 1 mana things to do is nice. I've got Dreadbore, because it hits creatures, and then it also hits planeswalkers. So in the matchups where they don't have creatures, usually there's planeswalkers. So it's almost always live. And then a number of the creatures double as spells as well. But the other big ones are, I've got Liliana of the Veil, the planeswalker, the new one. And I've also got a Chandra. Liliana she's been okay. I'm only playing 3 of her because there are a number of matchups where it's not that good, especially like against the low to the ground aggro decks I expected quite a bit of. And also just some of the graveyard decks where you make them discard and they discard a card they immediately get back. It's been solid. It's done a lot of work in matchups. I played against the red-black Mire, and it was really nice for me, both getting rid of like Graveyard Trespasser without having to discard a card, and also just getting rid of cards in hand against blue-white control. So it's been solid. It's a different axis of interaction that the deck didn't have, is the way I'd put it. Today, I'm trying out a Kalitas main, which is a creature, but it's debatable how good that one is. But my spicy one, I guess, for today is Baleful Mastery, which it's either 4 mana to exile a creature or planeswalker, or you can pay 2 and let your opponents draw a card. It's nice to get rid of something for good, but if I really need to cast it early, I still can, even if I give them a card. Well, I've got a lot of one-ofs because there's just a lot of cards that are pretty solid in different matchups, or cards that they're really good in one matchup, so I want them, but they can also be used in others, so I want some mixture of them. For example, I've got Go Blink is one of those cards. It's good against control because they have to discard 2 cards, but it also has hate against the graveyard because it will exile the graveyard when it resolves. Extinction Event and Witch's Vengeance are my kind of like my sweeper effects. I expected a lot of elves and humans, so Witch's Vengeance made sense to me. And Extinction Event's also really good against mono green, kind of the best deck in the format. Other cards for mono green like Lifebane Zombie, Epic Downfall, and Lava Coil, because I want to be able to exile their big creatures or get rid of them. And then kind of the mirror, I've got Sky Sovereign, Council Flagship, because being able to deal 3 when it comes in, and then if it ever attacks, deal 3 again is really nice and lines up well against other red-black cards. And Reckoner Bankbuster is one I'm trying out because it seems like it's a good way to get value and also be good against control. I feel like it's kind of like the deck's, it's the Jund of the format where it's got a lot of like close-ish matchups. It's the one maybe I'm happiest to see because I know it's favored is Blue-White Control. I've just played a lot against it, and I know it's a very good matchup. But there's a lot of just random decks that will come up, and I'll just be like, oh, I have all these good cards against you. 2 rough matchups are Mono Green is a rough matchup. I've got a lot of sideboard cards for that reason. And the Lotus Field combo decks, it's just hard to interact with all of my removal and stuff. I like feeling like I have agency in all of the different matchups where it doesn't feel like there's matchups where I just cannot win the moment I sit down and see what I'm up against. I always have ways that I can interact with my opponents and try to do things to get back in. And so I don't have as many of those non-games where it's like, there's nothing I could have done. It's if you like winning and you like kind of mid-range, you played a lot of like standard mid-range decks, or you played it in Modern, have played Thoughtseize decks, it's the perfect deck to go into. It's got a lot of powerful cards and interaction. What more do you want?
That's it for this episode. We'd like to thank Forrest for sharing his red-black mid-range deck. He did really well and made the top 8. Unfortunately, this is the last video we have for this event. We will continue with more deck techs, interviews, and short documentaries on the game we all love to play. Hope to see you again in our next episode of Inside the Deck.